Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those two others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backtrack Cinema, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the 1980 slasher film Friday the 13th. So get comfy, get a drink, get some popcorn, and let's talk about Friday the 13th. You're all doomed. Friday the 13th was released in 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham and starring Adrienne King, Betsy Palmer, and Kevin Bacon. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backtrack Cinema. My name is Jason, and this is where we talk movies from the past that you love and want to see. And today, guys, we are doing a review of Friday the 13th from 1980. This is a franchise. This is a film I love really dearly. Friday the 13th is my favorite horror franchise. Even though it has its ups, it has its downs. I know it's not for everyone, this franchise, but I enjoy it. I think it's fun, and I love the character of Jason Voorhees. And in this one, we're talking about the mother in this one. And that's what's funny about this franchise is that it all started with the mother, like this reversal of Psycho, but Jason Voorhees became synonymous with this franchise. He's the iconic villain of this franchise. And if we look back, we go back to Halloween from 1978. A new brand of horror film was created with Michael Myers, and he's stalking these teenagers, and the slasher was born. And then Friday the 13th comes along wanting to rip off Halloween and was instrumental with creating what we know as the slasher genre. By creating this idea of doing bad things and you die, all the victims are either having sex or they're doing drugs, all this kind of stuff that plays into the narrative of Friday the 13th. And then we fast forward, then all these other kinds of slashers come along, like My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, Terror Train, The Burning, Sleepaway Camp, which is a lot of the camp slasher is its own subgenre, right? And this movie just made us terrified of camping, going into the woods. I can remember as a kid being in the woods all the time. The first thing that'd pop in my mind is as Jason Voorhees out there. Ooh. But so yeah, guys, like Friday the 13th is a very special film to me. I really enjoy this film a lot. Is this original my favorite? No, Jason Lives is my favorite Friday the 13th film. I think this movie also stands on its own. I think it deserves more credit for what it did by amping up the blood and the gore and setting up that template of what a fun date slasher movie is. The camp atmosphere. I mean, I think the atmosphere and the elements of what's going on, this movie holds its own, I think. And I think when you watch enough slashers from the 80s, you realize how good this one is. I mean, the atmosphere and the mood's excellent in this film. A group of camp counselors trying to reopen a summer camp called Crystal Lake, which has a grim past, are stalked by a mysterious killer. Now, as much as I like Friday the 13th, guys, it is not a very good whodunit. It sets itself up as a whodunit, but it's not a very good whodunit because Mrs. Voorhees comes out of the end out of nowhere. But in saying that, it's never bothered me. I don't know why it hasn't bothered me. I think when she does show up, it's because her performance is so good, and then she just takes over this movie. Would have it been better if it was a better whodunit? Yes. Like, Sleepaway Camp's actually a better whodunit, but it's not a better movie than Friday the 13th as far as I'm concerned. I still enjoy everything else going on. Now, what they could have done, they should have done probably, is introduce Mrs. Voorhees earlier on. I've always thought that, Annie should have made it to the camp, and this is where you meet Mrs. Voorhees she passes the kitchen off to Annie, and then she's just got to get out of there because he's getting all these bad memories of her son drowning. But then again, that would have been a lot of fingers pointed at her, so you could see why they didn't do it. But I always thought that would have been something they could have done. And, her and Mr. Christie talking and shit like that, you know what I mean? But all the fingers point to Ralph. Crazy Ralph is set up as that person you're supposed to be thinking, yeah, he's the killer. And the big surprise is that you never thought it would be a woman. And I think the camp atmosphere is really cool. Like, I really like this atmosphere of the camp when it starts getting dark at night. the rain coming down, the waves coming up, how it's getting windy and the waves are coming up and everyone's retreating in their cabins and they're isolated. This is a movie that's built on isolation and they can't go anywhere. And my good buddy Nick Cooling from the Movie Ranker, he mentioned this in his review when he had his old channel about what really sets Mrs. Voorhees off is when Ned fakes his drowning. That kind of almost like instigates this whole thing, and Ned's the first one she kills, but this whole idea of they're making this out to be a joke that he's gonna fake his drowning and just to play a joke on something, it really sets her off, and it sets her off hard, man. And if you look at it that way, it's true. Like, you don't know. She already killed Annie by then too, though. So I don't know if it really instigated her, but she sees that and just pisses her off. I like the whole ghost story appeal. When we get Annie in the truck with the driver Enos, telling him all this stuff, that Camp Crystal Lake is cursed, the boy drowned there was killings, the water went bad, just that whole lore they're building, I think is pretty cool. I always like that. I call it kind of like the ghost story effect, and when Paul tells his speech in number 2, it's fantastic as well, you know what I mean? And I do like the characters in this. To me, these characters aren't douchebags. To me, these characters are here to do a job. They have orders by Mr. Christie to get the camp ready, and you see them all working together. You see them all kind of having fun. There's a certain responsibility with some of the characters. Like Brenda, you could see she kind of takes charge. I mean, she could have been a final girl in her own right. She takes charge. She tells the police officer when he shows up, we're just trying to get the camp together. Everything's all kosher. Everything's all good here. And they just seem to be all friendly, and then they all seem to be, helping each other. And I just like that dynamic between them all. So I've always thought the characters were good in this. I think they get hated on quite a bit for this movie. And the kills are great, man. Tom Savini bringing his A game back in the day for this. Whether you're talking Annie's kill or Jack's kill with the spear up through the throat, Marcy's kill is absolutely fantastic. I love Marcy's kill. I think it's great with the axe in the face, and it just looks so real. That kill looks so real, man. And the way she just kind of drops down, her eyes kind of like dead, you know what I mean? Her eyes is still, and she just slides down the walls. Fantastic. And you got to watch Friday the 13th on VHS, guys. It's a different experience because you don't see the practical effects that the Blu-ray has shown. You see, it's such a good watch on VHS. So try to hunt down Friday the 13th on VHS and you won't regret it. Betsy Palmer's performance as Mrs. Voorhees just takes over this movie. This is my favorite part of this whole movie when she shows up. She comes off so sweet, and then she just has this moments of thinking about Jason, and she just freaking snaps, man.
Never paid any attention. Look what you did to him. Look what you did to him.
And then she just goes after Alice, but you almost she's a villain. What she's doing is just horrific, killing all these teenagers because they bring back such a bad memory of what happened to Jason, how Jason was a victim of these counselors' irresponsibility. And so when she sees, the Jack and Marcy having sex, smoking drugs, this brings back horrible memories, and she just wants to take them all out. But not only that, she doesn't want the camp opened up again. By killing everything, it just puts this fear into everyone not to open this camp again. Keeping the curse alive, if you will. But her performance is great in here, man. Just the way she's, this reversal of Psycho where she's talking in Jason's voice, going, "Kill her, mommy, kill her." It's just awesome. And how aggressive she is and how real it looks when she's slapping Alice around and when she goes to lob her head off with the machete when she's locked in the closet. Betsy Palmer is just great in this, and she had very little screen time. She's so iconic, but there's very little screen time, and she made such an impact on this character and such an impact on this franchise, because at the end of the day, a mother's love for her son and a son's love for his mother. And there's an absolutely unsettling feeling at the end of this movie with two things here. That jump scare is phenomenal. The way they crafted that I would expect no one saw that coming. And the music going along with it, the way Harry Manfredini gave you this really nice music as if the credits were going to start rolling and the police show up and everything, and then bang, Jason comes out of freaking nowhere. It always leaves me really unsettled, and there's two Friday the 13th movies I'd say are the scariest. This one and Part 4. And this one may be the scariest because of Mrs. Voorhees, that music and that jump scare, and leaves you with a real unsettled feeling. But yeah, guys, Friday the 13th is a bona fide classic in the slasher genre. So I'm going to give Friday the 13th a B-. It is a badass slasher flick. But what about you guys? What do you think of Friday the 13th? Please comment down below. Let me know what you think of this slashic, and we'll have a good discussion on Friday the 13th. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Let's have a great conversation of Friday the 13th. And if you're new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss all the great content coming up. My name is Jason, and you are watching Backtrack Cinema. I will see you on the next video, and I will see you in the movies, man. Cheers.